Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, welcome to the Thursday edition of Sidelines. Coming up on Week 10 college football season, Rob Browne here with you. Got a great show in store today. First up, going to be joined by Dudley, Dawson, Hogville.net, covering the Razorbacks and talking about this football. We're going to start getting into basketball pretty soon. Holy cow, have you seen these 6 freshmen that the Razorbacks have? Eric Musselman, he scares you. This guy, he and Bruce Pearl get more. They get every ounce of talent. They will squeeze it out of every player on their roster. Second segment, Gary Harris, WVUA TV 23, Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa, checks in on Alabama. Top of hour number 2, we'll head over to Atlanta. Tommy Kane, ACC Outlook Report. Tommy Kane, 14 years on Fox Sports, a long time on the ACC network, ACC road trip, NC State grad. Oh, Wolfpack. We'll be talking more men basketball as well. And in the fourth segment, Yancy Porter checks in from Oxford on the Ole Miss Rebels. A lot of questions. Everybody talks about it. Lane Kiffin, I think he stays at Ole Miss. He's got a great job. He's got stability. He's the biggest thing on campus. And he's about to get the Rebels. They're trying to get back-to-back double-digit win seasons. I don't think they've done that since 1959, 1960. So these are big times. Give us a follow on Twitter at Sidelines_live. We will certainly appreciate it and follow you back. Again, we're here every Monday through Saturday, 2 hours a day, www.sidelines.live. Also follow us, 680thefan.com, the podcast park in Atlanta. Kicks 96.3, Alexander City, Lake Martin, Alabama, 750 miles of the beautiful shoreline and the cleanest of lakes in America, celebrating almost 100 years. All right, Dudley, you're first up right now. Razorbacks went down there and they put Auburn fans. That was a bittersweet game, man. I was there, and they Brian Harsin, he's gone, and so Razorbacks got the win, and that's 2 in a row. And the Razorbacks have got Liberty coming in Saturday. A lot of football to talk about. No drama in Auburn, so let's head up to Fayetteville.
Well, it certainly was an interesting game down there, and I guess Coach Harsin got a really nice parting gift.
Yeah,
I'm in the wrong profession. I should be a fired head college football coach because everybody there gets really rich. But I know he wanted to be more successful. But, Arkansas is excited about winning 2 games in a row. And I'm excited because I'm coming to Nashville this weekend. And my son Brooks is getting married to the to the sister of a former Penn State linebacker. So,
wow.
Maybe we'll have some good genes there down the road.
Heck yeah, they're going to live down here in Pennsylvania.
They are going to live in Nashville for a while, but then his company will eventually move him to New York or Philadelphia, and they'll have a lot of support up there.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Dudley, man. And this is year 3 for Sam Pittman. The offensive line and I know Auburn is not what you typically see out of Auburn, but they just were manhandled. Couldn't get anywhere near KJ Jefferson. If they keep bringing in offensive linemen like that, and the skill players are going to, I would think, gravitate to Fayetteville, because if you've got that kind of protection around you, running back, receiver, everything flows a lot better. It's not easy, but a lot smoother when you've got that kind of line play. Who are some of the stars on this offensive line and some guys that are getting some playing time in that freshman class, because it's fun to watch them develop?
Well, the stars, in terms of who they've got here now, Ricky Stromberg's probably going to be one of the first centers taken. He's done a really good job. You've got a very experienced offensive line that's played a lot of snaps together. Luke Jones is really a kid that stepped in this year. He was the only new starter on that line. They've continued to mash people, as you said, with Bo Limmer and Dalton Wagner, one of the tackles who's been around forever, it seems like, and continue to just do that. They're going to continue to add those guys. Coach Pittman's really picked up some guys from Memphis, as you well know.
Yeah.
St. Louis, Oklahoma. He made it clear that when he got here, he was going to improve the offensive and defensive lines. Certainly has made that case with the offensive line and continues to try to do that with the defensive line as they move forward. And the mentality of this state has always been to be physical on the offensive line and defensive line. That's when Arkansas has been at its best, and so I think that's one of the reasons he meshes so well with this state is because that's his mentality, just as it is the state's overall.
Yeah, when you start looking at Arkansas, the way they play, it is a full 60. You're going to get that out of them. When KJ Jefferson, and you talked about this, really, you made the case early on in the season, coaches. KJ, don't run the ball so much, you're going to get hurt. Had he not been banged up and not able to play in the Mississippi State game, I think Arkansas very likely gets that win. That A&M game is frustrating. When you get more and more talented players, and we talked so much about 1 through 22, 23 to 44, 45 to 85, that's when things start changing. Finding a backup quarterback, though, in today's world with the transfer portal, making it so easy to switch. Is Arkansas in recruiting wise on anyone that you think is an exceptional talent at the quarterback position?
Well, they've got a commitment from Malachi Singleton, a young man from the Atlanta area who they think is going to be a really good quarterback down the line. But I wouldn't be surprised at all, even with Malik Hornsby here and having his really good game that he did, and having Malachi Singleton in tow. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they go out and get another portal quarterback, somebody who may not even know he's leaving his place yet. So I think that that's certainly if you're coaching, you have to continue to recruit even now. Past the dates that are normally been specified. So I'm sure that they'll bring some people in here because really, Cade Renfro, who's a young man who transferred from Ole Miss. He re-injured his ACL. So, the quarterback room only has three healthy guys in it right now. So I'm sure they're going to add. It would be coaching malpractice if you didn't.
Yeah. Well, we know that coaching malpractice goes along. And I'm not going to be surprised when we were kids, Dudley and Jimmy, we used to want to grow up and be a fireman or a policeman or a garbage man or something like that. I think kids now, I'm going to grow up and be a fired football coach in the SEC. I mean, it's $15.3 million they're going to give Harsin. If I was Auburn, I'd go after him for and say fired him with cause because look at the recruiting. Chuck Oliver of Southern Sports Today talked about that talent gap. Auburn, Alabama is the deepest in 40 years. That's inexcusable. And now look at what Arkansas is doing in this state. The high schools, over 200 of them play high school football. You've been to over 60 of them this year. That's more than some head coaches have visited, and they were getting paid millions of dollars. So a thumbs up to you. One more thing before we go to Jimmy. When you look at the progress, you said it best preseason. This may be it's the toughest schedule in the nation. I mean, look at your non-conference games. Cincinnati, Missouri State, that was tough. BYU, and now Liberty. And maybe a better team, not with a better record. Arkansas could win out, but still, there's no point in the season where there are any, quote, gimme games, are there?
Not at all. And, as you said, they could finish up strong just like they did last year and win out in the regular season. Alabama's not lingering there as it was last year.
Yeah,
but you still got some very good teams in LSU and Ole Miss. Liberty is going to be no pushover, even though the odds makers have Arkansas as a 14-point favorite. I'm not a betting guy, but if I was, that would seem like a lot to me for a Liberty team that's only loss was to Wake Forest, and that's because of a 2-point conversion that failed. So they're going to have a tough game here Saturday. As it just continues to be a tough schedule year after year. Coach Pittman spoke on that yesterday and said he just, basically plays here where they line up. But it is tough when you're playing all the West opponents. You get Georgia twice in his 3 years, and you continue to play, non-conference foes like Cincinnati, who was in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You go to BYU, you get Liberty and Hugh Freeze, who may be auditioning for a few jobs here. Understand that contract he signed, that new 5-year contract. Basically he has an out clause if he wants to go to an SEC school. So, it's tough, but at least Arkansas kept their athletic director, and I think that's a big key in all of this. Reportedly he was pursued by Auburn. It took less money to stay here. That's cool, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I who wouldn't pursue Hunter Yurachek and Hugh Freeze? People will say, hey, he's won, but it's come with a cost. And there's a big difference between agreeing in principle on a contract and actually signing it. And I'm not an attorney. We have several that are listening, but he will be in the mix. Jimmy, jump in here with Dudley, Dawson, Hogville.net on Thursday's edition of Sidelines.
Well, I know after the game when Sam was being interviewed, the thing he was happiest about was the fact that in the third quarter, they came out and took control of the game, because at BYU, that was not the case. And they had some problems throughout the year. And it was 17-13 at the half. And just watching the game as an outsider, I thought Auburn was in pretty good shape. They hung with Arkansas well. And then, the second half begins and Arkansas just takes control immediately. And again, it just shows you how the SEC, when it gets down to it, is a line of scrimmage league. And we all thought all year that Auburn's strength was going to be defensively, not only defensively, but up front. And, they just got manhandled. Arkansas took over. And anytime KJ Jefferson is available to play, just from a psychological standpoint, it appears that Arkansas is a different team, because he's a dual threat quarterback. The only thing that I was concerned about that Sam said after the game, or maybe at halftime, he said, we want KJ to run the ball more. Well, with only 3 quarterbacks, and we've talked about the fact that 8 to 12 times a game is plenty for him, as this season starts to near its end as far as the regular season goes. You want him to make sure he can make it through this season. What's your thought on how they use him running the ball, because you want to make sure he makes it through the year?
Yeah, it's interesting that end of the second quarter will not be used as a coaching highlight video. Yeah, for Arkansas. That was pretty wild, and Auburn took advantage of it. And as you said, was poised right there, going into halftime to maybe, make a big push in the third quarter, which is a quarter that Arkansas has not been very good at all this year. They seemingly, great in the fourth quarter and in the first and second, but the third has been a tough one for them. But they came out, scored a couple of touchdowns, obviously regained control of the ball game, and then in a split second, it was a 3-touchdown game there all of a sudden. And while I give Robbie Ashford and Tank Bixby and the Auburn offense a lot of credit, it was just to a point at that point. And I feel for those kids down there. Adults make a lot of decisions. Kids go out and play. Certainly they've been inconsistent, but nobody likes to go bang their head against a wall all the time. It's why one of the things I've been talking about this week, there are 18 teams in the state of Arkansas, high school teams, that do not have a win this year. So when I was asked to highlight somebody that, should be highlighted, I talked about those 12 teams. I can't even imagine, having played at Newport and having great success all the time, what it's like to go out every Friday, not have a chance to win. And, so I wanted to give those credit. And you have to give, like I said, the Auburn players credit. We'll see how many come back, because there appear to be plenty who were jumping the ship before the announcement and jumping ship afterwards. But, that is a great football program overall, and I'm sure they'll make the right hire and get it back going.
Well, Arkansas, they're having fun. That's the thing that I can tell. And when you're working these kids hard, getting up 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, it better be fun. But they believe in their coach, because they know that he cares about them. And you know what? They've bought in, and he's got a team full of guys that are buying in. And yeah, I think in any program, you want to have a coach that's out there with his players. You can't be, buddies with them like you are with your regular friends, because you're going to ask them to do things. And if they don't, they're not going to be around very long. But I like that staff that he's got. And, Kendall Browse, Barry Odom, those are your two coordinators. I mean, Barry Odom's been a head coach. Doesn't he take a walk every morning with Sam Pittman? Don't they kind of talk? And I think there's a lot of good trade-off there. Defense isn't perfect, but who does have a shutdown defense anymore in today's college football world?
Yeah, Barry Odom and Coach Pittman do take a walk. It's usually around lunch every day. If you're up there, you can see them walking all over the campus. And I think they, Coach Odom, obviously being a head coach before, they trade a lot of ideas, and it's worked out really well. I want to double back to the point Jimmy made. Yeah, I think that it's optimal for KJ to run just 5-6 times. But obviously you do some things to win football games. But I do think that Coach Pittman is giving the reputation of being a really good guy, which he is. But he makes subtle, and sometimes not so subtle points. And at halftime, he made it clear that Arkansas was going to quit throwing on first down and start running the ball again, and that's what they did in the third quarter. And so while he has a really good staff, I think he stays on top of them and makes sure they know what he wants in terms of defense and offense, even though he lets those guys, have a little bit of rope to work with.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. Going to be back with more. Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net is with us. If you love the Hogs, follow the Hogs, call the Hogs, hear the Hogs right after this.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne, Jimmy Hodge, Dudley Dawson talking college football. And Dudley, you talked about there are 18 high schools in the state of Arkansas this year that up to this point don't have a win. And that's a hell of a statement, factual statement. But those guys that get up and voluntarily go do the workouts and show up, you know what? They may not win a game. All 18 of them may go winless the whole year, but they're going to learn lessons of life, and that is you've got to show up. 95% of life is showing up with a positive attitude. And you look around, again, I watch a lot of football, so do both of y'all. But, boy, body language is important, isn't it? The way, guys rolling their eyes and just sighing. You know what? If you don't want to be on this team, let me help you pack your stuff, get out of here. I want guys that buy all in. Talk about, again, Sam Pittman, how he set that tone in this program as they go. You don't see finger pointing, you don't hear whining, you don't hear just all that. It's nice. Arkansas has fun playing football.
Yeah, and it is the total opposite of what was going on here before then. I don't think Chad Morris is a bad guy or anything. In fact, I think he's a really good assistant coach, and showed that down the line. But the body language, the will to win was really tough around here during his 2 years. You could see it. There were guys who didn't want to be here. There were guys who accepted losing as being okay. that was a mentality that Coach Pittman changed right when he came in here. The first half against Georgia, even though they ended up losing the football game, the mentality was showed, I think, to the fans that were on hand and the fans in the state. And you're right. My beautiful wife, Petra, I can tell what she's thinking, whether she opens her mouth or not.
That's right.
You know, and if she does and she says, fine, I got to pick it up. And certainly that is what happened with Coach Pittman. The mentality has changed around here. It will continue to change. And, you know, he's put them in good shape again as they go down the stretch here. Whether they win all these games or however many they win, the future appears to be in great shape in his hands. It has turned out to be a great hire when a lot of people, including myself, wondered how he would do as a head coach after all those years as an assistant coach. It's turned out pretty good so far.
Yeah, and if you're not the most talented team, you damn sure can be the most physical, hungry, get after the other team's rear end for a full 60. And then as you get better players in there, you can have a foundation you can win on for a long, long time. Jimmy?
Yeah, Dudley, when you compare Arkansas after Sam took over, it was in certain ways like the Bielema mode, I guess, in that Brett had big, some people would say lumbering guys that played in the offensive line. And yet it seemed like just kind of a slower tempo of football, that it wasn't that hard to adjust to, I think, defensively, where Sam has employed more, you know, that spread option offense, but also with big guys up front, where when Morris came in, he intentionally wanted offensive linemen that could sprint to the line of scrimmage after a play in the no huddle offense. Size-wise, they were maybe 20, 25 pounds lighter than I think what you have to have in the SEC. So as far as what Sam has done offensively and with the offensive line, can you tell that maybe he has a more athletic, let's say, a more skilled, refined offensive lineman than Bielema did? Or how would you compare those offenses, but especially those offensive lines, which is so critical to being successful in the SEC?
Well, the first thing is it's easy to sprint to the offensive line when you only gain 2 yards, you know, which was happening a lot, you know, during that time. And by the way, Coach B deserves a lot of credit. He's got Illinois, along with his offensive coordinator, Barry Loney Jr., who, you know, had a lot of success here. They're rolling right now, and congratulations to them. But I do think that Coach Pittman is given credit for being an offensive guru or an offensive line guru because he's earned it over the years, and he knows what he wants in the offensive lineman. Yes, you want to have them big and physical, but you've got to have athleticism as well. Patrick Kutas, you know, is a young man that from Memphis that you know, embodies that. And so, yes, I think he knows what he wants in offensive line. I suspect that Cody Kennedy, who's the offensive line coach here, who he really you know, came with him from Georgia and has taken and done a really good job. I expect he gets a nice little raise at the end of the season. You know, for what he's done with this offensive line, how he's helped recruit the future of it. And again, there are guys, Tykeus Crawford is a young man who probably would be starting at a lot of SEC schools, certainly a lot of Power 5 schools, who hasn't got a lot of snaps this year because of the depth, the experience, and how well that offensive line is played. That's the one area on this football team that I don't think that you know, you'll ever have to worry about.
Dudley, when looking around at the future, let's look out. When Texas and Oklahoma come in, I think that opens up more doors. Arkansas has always recruited those areas, but playing those schools regularly puts you in front of the people of that state more. Even though, you know, A&M's in the SEC, that Texas-Arkansas rivalry was so big, and the idea of Arkansas-Oklahoma has always appealed to people. And I think recruits are going to grab onto that.
I do love the thing that some people, I should say, around here kept saying Arkansas should move to the Big 12. They would have, more opportunity to win and all that. I like the fact that the Big 12 has seemingly started coming to them.
Yeah.
With Missouri, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Texas now. I do think that they will continue to recruit Texas hard, but I think one area that Arkansas has already made a push in and will continue to do is Oklahoma. Coach Pittman considers himself kind of a native of Arkansas, even though he grew up in Grove, Oklahoma, 70 miles away from here. But his staff has a lot of recruiting tentacles that have reached out into Oklahoma as well and continue to do that. I think that's the biggest area that this football team will continue to get better at. And we know they play really good football in Oklahoma. One of the things that I may have not mentioned, they've got 3 tight ends, all 4 stars coming in next year. They've done this and had offensive success without really having, great play from their tight ends. They're about to get 3 guys that a lot of people wanted. And that's just going to add to the offense and add to what they're doing going down the line.
Well, you think about it and look what they do in basketball recruiting, Arkansas. I mean, they play pretty good high school basketball in the state. And then they can go into Memphis and they can go into Missouri, St. Louis, whatever. But Eric Musselman, he doesn't know what a state line is. I mean, real quick, let's ask you about basketball. Everybody's getting into practice and all like that. And I want to know what they're doing because he is 2 straight Elite 8 appearances.
He is a great basketball coach. He's a great salesman as well. One thing I will tell you is that they are going to be really good this year, but they went to Texas last weekend and got humbled. And while he probably really didn't want to see that or didn't say that publicly, I think it was great for them in terms of getting their head straight. There's a lot of kids, a lot of great talent. They've been told how great they are. They've been told that they have, Final Four aspirations and all that. They got it handed to them last Saturday. And while it wasn't televised, there might have been a private feed that I got to see, the first half they played really well. The second half, they were basically told, you're not what you think you are yet. And so practices have been closed this week, to my understanding. It's been boot camp. So I suspect that when they open the season Monday night that they will, have their mind focused and back ready to go. And there are a lot of people who will understand as they have these last couple of years, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And that certainly has been something that the Musselman teams have done while here.
Yeah, they start off 0-2, 0-3 last year, and then won 15 out of 16. That were scary good. And I remember that Thursday night when they took down Gonzaga. That was such a big win. It was like the national championship. I mean, to do that. But I just don't think anything's going to change with him. I think he's just a great coach. And the people in Arkansas absolutely are obsessed with basketball.
Yeah, and only had that one national championship in 1994, but they've had a great history over the years. There was a drought for a while, but they're back where they need to be. And then you mentioned baseball. Baseball has had great success. And then just the overall athletic program, men's and women's. That's why Auburn and others have tried to come after Hunter Yurchek. And he has a great relationship with these coaches. He respects them. They respect he respects them, they respect him, and they've all got raises. And, that's what happens when you're successful. But there is no such thing as a $15 million, $95 million, whatever it is Jimbo Fisher has, buyout here if somebody were to come get your accounts, which it helps when your football coach, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Jimmy Sexton was like, dude, please.
Yeah, I guarantee he was saying, hey, don't you want to get a raise? I mean, this is the time of year when the coaches' names are put up almost intentionally, but like Lane Kiffin, he's going to get a raise either way, because he won't leave unless it's for more money. And if he stays at Ole Miss, in order to keep him there, they'll pay more money. And I believe he will stay at Ole Miss. I think he's got a great situation there. And Sam Pittman, I mean, you never hear him talking about all that stuff. That's why he's such a likable guy. He loves the University of Arkansas.
I would never place a bet on what Lane Kiffin's going to do. I mean, that may be what he does, but it's interesting. I've known him since he was a little kid around here with his dad, Monty. So it's been interesting to watch all over all these years. So tell you what, he's entertaining as heck to watch.
He is.
Some like him, some don't. But he's entertaining as heck to watch, and I'll watch any SEC football game, but certainly one that he's in, because I know there's going to be several fourth down plays that are either going to work or not work spectacularly.
Yeah, and he's like Monday Night Football when Howard Cosell, Frank Gifford, and Don Meredith were on there, especially as the game went on. It got better. I mean, hey, Dudley, tell people how they can follow you. Love having you on. Look forward to visiting next week, but I always learn a lot.
As you said, it worked for hogbill.net. It's been really exciting. The best message board in Arkansas. Got a great staff, and we're certainly busy right now, even though as I said, we'll be making an appearance in Nashville this weekend. In Memphis. Paige and I are going to spend the night in Memphis. So if you're on Bill Street tonight, I might see you. Then head on. But also Fearless Friday talked about. I've gone to see a lot of schools. We'll continue to do that, certainly in the off season as well. I'm really enjoying talking to those coaches, which are the bottom line of football in this state. They're doing a great job. And then also my Twitter handle is DED, as in I always say, as in dog, elephant, dog sports. And you might find stuff about the Cardinals, Cowboys, Celtics, Vegas Golden Knights, Manchester United, all that on there. So.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to get Nigel on here and Roger, my British friends that are Arsenal and Man United. They love the soccer. So
I know more about the pitch than I used to. So
yeah, well, we're gonna get into that, man. Hey, Dudley, thank you so much, man. Have a great week, and Hogs win 38-24 Saturday. That's my prediction.
I think that would make the state happy, and even though they don't like 11 a.m. games, which they will have the following weekend with LSU.
Yeah, that's a brutal time slot. All right, thanks so much.
You bet, man. Y'all have a good weekend.
You do too. Love having Dudley Dawson of hogville.net on. We'll be joined in just a few minutes by Gary Harris down in Tuscaloosa. Jimmy, we got Gary Harris on here with us right now, and Gary, wow, it's college football season fully underway. This weekend, it's a strange weekend. We know about Tennessee, number 1 at number 3, Georgia in Athens Saturday. And it's like people were saying, oh, yeah, LSU is hosting Alabama. Alabama knows how to win in Baton Rouge like no other program in history. We know about that period, 1969 to 2001. I don't think they lost, but maybe one time. I think Alabama goes down there, and they've had enough of being told what they're not. I think the team is healthy. I think they go down there and play their best game of the year. I'm feeling a win for Alabama. Don't know if they'll cover, but I believe they're going to get the win. You talk about a fight, a shootout. Do you want Jaden Daniels or do you want Bryce Young, the best player in college football? I'll take Bryce Young in Alabama. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that I do think Alabama's a better football team. That's just my opinion. But we'll have to see. They'll have to play like it. And, this Alabama team has been, it's been curious, is the term I would use. I've said going into the season, I thought that this team was going to be dominant, and at times it's flashed, but particularly on the road, it's not been a dominant football team. It, barely won at Texas, and we know lost at Tennessee, and then at Arkansas had a 28-0 lead and got it cut down to 28-23 before it away there. So it's had some challenges. I do think Alabama's going to win the football game. I've got them winning at 35-20. So I have them covering the point too, if that matters to anybody. But I'm not as confident as you are, Rob, just simply because I'm at a point now where they're just going to have to prove it to me. I think that they're coming off the bye. Clearly, the team was impacted by the loss of Bryce Young in the second half against Arkansas and in the game against Texas A&M, and even when he came back against Tennessee and Mississippi State, he hasn't been 100%. He wasn't throwing during practice, so I hope this bye week has allowed him to to be closer to, 100% Bryce Young. And Coach Saban was asking about the offense last night, and he just basically said you can't judge the offense when your quarterback isn't, working in practice at full go. So hopefully that has, that's been fixed, and he's ready to go. And they'll go down there and they'll play well, because if Alabama plays well, they're going to win the game. That's just my quick analysis, that they're a better football team than LSU. But at home, is LSU good enough to beat Alabama if Alabama doesn't play its best? Sure, they are. And that'll be the challenge. Is this Alabama team going to go down there and play well, and then come back and play well again at Oxford the next week? And then it's set up certainly with 2 home games against Austin Peay and Auburn to finish out the season and get to Atlanta and play for the SEC championship. So I certainly think Alabama is better, but they're going to have to prove it.
Hold those thoughts. We're going to come back after the break. I want to get in more to this LSU game, because I think Alabama is ready to explode. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959, right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
Now more than ever, it is so important to shop local and to buy American. For 60 years, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company has been on the historic Collierville Square, and we strive to sell made in the USA products when available. With over 7,000 pairs of Western boots and work boots in stock for men and women, come and see our huge selection of clothing, jeans, and accessories from top brands made in the USA. Please support local business and come shop with us at Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company. God bless the USA.
Man, I tell you what, sign me up, man. I'm ready to join the Marine Corps. That's a great commercial, Hewlett and Dunn. Gary Harris, what I'm looking at with Alabama, there's so much talent on that team, and they have struggled at Texas. They struggled at home mightily against A&M, lost on the road in a shootout at Tennessee. But there's a great game still in Alabama or two. And I think we're going to see it Saturday down in Baton Rouge. And I say that because I just look at trends. Everybody thinks this Alabama team, they're questioning them. I mean, you go to that Tennessee game against the number 1 team in the country. It literally went down to Phil Necro's knuckleball field goal as time expired to win 52-49. I just don't see at LSU. They're not built to get into a shootout. It's the same thing I said when Tennessee went to play LSU. Alabama, I think, does the same thing. Not that I don't think LSU is good, but they're not built to get into a shootout. And Alabama is. That's what they do.
Well, I certainly hope I certainly think they hope it's not a shootout. I mean, you can't take the Tennessee game out. I get it. It counts. And Tennessee went for 52. But outside of that game, Alabama's defense has been one of the better defenses in this conference. And I mean, even coming off a game in which Mississippi State, which most people consider to have a really good offense, didn't score a point in that game until the final play of the game down on the goal line. So I think if you're Alabama, I agree with you, Rob. They've proven they can score with anybody. I mean, their offense is explosive. And when Bryce Young is, throwing it around, they can put up points. But I feel like, they feel like their defense too is good enough against most of these teams to keep the score down some. So from an Alabama perspective, I think they're also hoping that their defense goes in there and plays well. And I agree, Jaden Daniels is a dynamic dual threat quarterback. He's gotten better throughout the year, particularly passing the football. LSU's offense the last 2 games, against Florida and Ole Miss has been as good as it's been all season. So it could be that kind of game. But I think what Alabama really is game planning for is to be good in all 3 phases, to be good on offense, be good in defense, and be good on special teams. And if that's the case, I think they feel like they'll win the football game. But if LSU is, putting up points in the game. I think Alabama, you're right, is built to score with anybody. When you've got Bryce Young, he may not have the receivers that he had last year, but, they're still talented. Some of them are still finding their way. Young guys, been a lot of injuries to that group, so forth and so on. But, you seem to think this is going to be a breakout game for Alabama, and I know they hope it is. And it's a 4-game stretch now. It all comes down to these 4 games, and it starts with LSU on Saturday night. So I think Alabama, you're.
Well, Gary, I mean, it's like a following a stock. You look at a 200-day moving average on a stock, you're looking for breakout points. I just think that Alabama, and Jimmy may not agree with me, that their offensive line isn't great, and there's some issues that they have, but I think they're further ahead than LSU. And then there's the talent factor, and I just look at the track record of what they do historically in Baton Rouge, and Nick Saban has his teams. He plays on another level when he's playing at LSU. He remembers his 5 years there, and he wants them to remember them as well. Jimmy?
Well, I think Gary pointed it out at the very beginning, and that's the fact that Alabama has to prove that they can beat a quality team on the road. And defensively, again, against Tennessee, they want to erase that memory. And then also you had, as Gary also mentioned, the Arkansas game where Bama jumped out to a 28-0 lead. And before you know it, it's 28-23. And, Alabama is one play from having to punt the ball back to Arkansas before Milroe pulled off that 77-yard run that led to the touchdown and really allowed them to pull away. But I think this is a really critical game for Alabama to, I think, just reassure themselves that they can go to a hostile environment, because out of the 3 big games LSU has played at home, this is the first time they've had an opponent at night, whereas Tennessee got the luxury of playing LSU at 11 in the morning. The Ole Miss game was a 2:30 game, but now you're going to have the Lions on the prowl Saturday night, waiting for Bama's entrance. But at the same time, though, history for some reason has shown that Alabama always plays well in Baton Rouge. So I think Bama really needed that open date. The 2 weeks is going to help them. On the other hand, I think LSU is probably disappointed that they had an open week last week, because they're coming off their 2 best games of the season. I think they would have loved to have played again last week. And it'll be interesting to see what they're able to do after a 2-week break, and see if that open date interrupted their momentum a little bit. But also another factor, and I just checked AccuWeather, and as of right now, it's showing there's a 95% chance of rain Saturday in Baton Rouge. Now, I don't know if that will still be the case at 6 p.m. after it's gotten dark, but that could also be a big factor too, and maybe affect how the teams try to run their offense, how many passes they throw, and how they handle the ball. So as usual, LSU, Alabama, there are a lot of different interesting dynamics involved.
Yeah. Gary, good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I just lost you guys a while ago, but I just came back, and I'm backing into the radio station here in Tuscaloosa now, so I just turn the camera on. That'll be fine.
Yeah, good to see you, man. And look, I think
this is my radio. This is my radio look.
There you go.
Straight out of bed to the radio station. Yeah.
Man, you work. I mean, you've got radio, TV, up early, up all day, up all night. I got to ask you this one. I like to get the barometer. What are the interns there at the TV station and the radio station saying? What's their pick? What are their thoughts about Alabama going down to Baton Rouge Saturday night?
Well, they're actually they find more flaws with Alabama than a lot of other people do. I think most of them are really nervous. They're younger. I'm sending a couple of them down there to the game that work for me at the TV station that have never been down there, so they're jacked up about it. They've heard about Tiger Stadium at night, but I think most of these younger fans are nervous. about this team, because I think most of them expected as well for Alabama just to go out and bulldoze everybody, and it's not gone that way. So I think there's a lot of anxiety from the fan base perspective about this game, because again, for this Alabama team, there's still a lot of unknowns 8 games in, and they have not been that dominant team that I think most people expected them to be. Although 7-1 is pretty good, and they still control their own fate. As I said earlier before I lost you guys, I think Alabama's going to win the football game. I think they're better. And Jimmy was talking about the record down there, and you were too, Rob. Alabama's got an incredible record at Tiger Stadium in the night game. In fact, the last time Alabama lost down there, it was an afternoon game. It was 2010. When Les Miles was the coach. So since then, it's been all night games, and Alabama's won every one of them in 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. But for LSU, I had a feeling their fans were complaining about the lack of night games, but you knew when they played Alabama, they'd figure out a way to get it at night.
Of course.
That's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, Gary, this Alabama team, Jahmyr Gibbs is an outstanding guy. He's a dual threat. I mean, they don't have the receivers. There's no Jamison Williams, John Mechie III. You got Jermaine Burton, and you've got some young guys that have some reps, but not a lot of experience. I think Jahmyr Gibbs can be as important in this game as TJ Yeldon was in 2012. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is such a dual threat, but he has to be a dual threat against LSU. Brian Kelly knows these are the 2 winningest active coaches in America. 4 games separate them. Saban's 272 and 268 for Brian Kelly. What is it that worries you the most if you're Alabama's coaches about this LSU team? Because that's what keeps you up at night, but that's what you coach for.
Well, I think just the game in general. I mean, it's a big game against like you said, a well-coached team. LSU is very well coached, and I think most people that follow college football knew that Brian Kelly was a good hire. I kind of laughed at some of those people that scoffed at it. When you look at his track record, what he's done everywhere he's been, he's built winners, and he did not win a national championship at Notre Dame, but he came close, and he's a good coach, and they're better. Over a long haul, they're going to be much better coached and prepared than they were under Ed Orgeron. I mean, the 2019 season was a magical season for LSU and Orgeron, but outside of that was an up and down team. And then, of course, obviously last year, it just kind of all fell apart for them. But I just think you're concerned about playing a really good team on the road at night. And that if LSU gets off to a good start, they're going to build confidence. And we've seen it the last 2 weeks. They're playing their best football. So if you're Alabama, I think, you say this every game, but they fell down big at Tennessee and were able to come back. But I think you want to just come out of the gates fast. I think you just want to try to establish that you're here to play football and get on top of LSU, because I do think even as good as Daniels has been, and they did come back against Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I think, was up 17-3 in that game, and then of course. Didn't score in the second half after leading 2017 at halftime. So it's not like they can't come back, but I don't know that they're necessarily built for it against a team like Alabama. So if Alabama can jump out fast, establish the lead, I think they'll be in good shape. But if LSU gets early momentum, much like Tennessee did, and can parlay that into a lead, this could be a really, really tough football game.
Is Alabama, you talk about offense, defense, special teams. That's about a third of every game. You muff a punt return, wide right on the field goal, bad snap. I mean, that can take you out. Will Reichard, he's been a pretty good kicker going into this, environment. If it's close, you like Alabama, their chances with Will Reichard. I mean, it's special teams. It takes special players to play on special teams.
Yeah, y'all are cutting out. I'm going to go inside and see if I can get on the Wi-Fi.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm thinking about it, Jimmy. Will Reichard.
I'm losing you.
Field goal kicker. Okay. For Alabama, going on a road environment like this, that's always going to be tough as it is. And the stadium will be shaking, 102,000 plus. Been getting liquored up all day. And it's probably already started down in Baton Rouge. That's kind of how this stuff goes. And I know Frank Duffy talks a lot about it. We have Jimmy Ott and Jacques Doucet down there from Channel 9 in Baton Rouge. it's a special place. And Alabama, for any number of reasons, in their minds, feels like they own LSU. They own the night, like the U.S. military. We own the night vision goggles. There's something like that goes on. And Gary, let me know when you're able to pick back up. But
yeah, I can hear
Nick,
you now. I can hear you. I picked you back up.
Okay. Nick Saban, when he goes to Baton Rouge, think about this. He has got an extra step, an extra kick in everything he does. He's motivated because he was there 5 years. He left. People weren't happy, but then he showed up at Alabama. That is very important. And although he's not going to suit up and play in the game, he just has Alabama lined up. And like you say, with the exception of the Alabama-Tennessee game, Alabama's defense has been really good. That's what I think. That's why I think everything's lining up for Alabama to have a great game Saturday. And you can agree or disagree, but Gary, it's going to be a fun one.
Oh, it is. And I do think things line up well. They needed to get to that bye. 8 straight games. They were beat up. Again, it's an extra week for Bryce to get ready. So I do think it lines up well. And here's the bottom line for me is that if Alabama's the team I think they are, and they're good enough, they're going to navigate through these next 4 weeks. And they're going to get to Atlanta at 11-1 and play for the SEC championship. Yeah. If they're the team that a lot of people think they are this year, then they're going to lose one of these next couple of games, if not both. So it's going to be proven out either way. If they're a typical Alabama team, they'll finish the drill. And if they're not, maybe this is like a 2010, a 2019 where, they lose a game or 2 or 3. So we'll find out. I mean, it all starts on Saturday night. There's no margin of error now. If they lose on Saturday night or they lose the next week at Oxford, they're more than likely not going to go to Atlanta. And it's going to be a disappointing finish. And they're going to be in a bowl game, and they're going to be, facing what everybody else faces that doesn't make it to the playoff. Will guys opt out or guys play it out through the season? So we're going to find out. That's kind of where I'm at, Rob and Jimmy, is the money's on the table now. And this team is either going to be the team that most people or a lot of people thought that they would be, or they're going to be the team that, since the Tennessee game, a lot of the analysts have been saying, this isn't a typical Alabama team. This Alabama team is not as good as other Alabama teams. So we're going to find out. That's really my analysis is I'm not sure. You can probably tell the way I've hedged a little bit. So, we're going to find out the next couple of weeks.
Is it offensive line the biggest concern? I mean, all the talent they brought in that class in August of 21, how many of those guys look like they're going to pan out? You've had almost 2 years to see.
Well, I don't know. I mean, some of those guys are playing. They did have to go out and get a graduate transferred offensive tackle on the left side in Tyler Steen, but they're still trying to develop some of those guys. You're seeing some of them play. And I still think that the offensive line has not gelled the way that, they would like it to, but it's gotten better. And I thought against Mississippi State in the first half, the offensive line looked really, really good. In the second half, they didn't do much. But again, this is a big litmus test for the offensive line too. But I'm like I said, I'm picking Alabama 35-20. I think they're going to go down there and win the game. But I'm not a gambling man anyway these days. But if I were, I probably wouldn't bet on it either way. But I like Alabama to win.
Yeah, I mean, well, hell, everything's a gamble. Look, Gary, tell people how they can follow you. I know you've got a lot going on every day of the week covering Alabama.
Yeah, and I'm sorry about the cut-ups this morning. I was, en route over here to the radio station. But
we appreciate you coming on. Trust me.
Todd109.com is the website for the radio show. You can live stream it. You can download the app. You can find me on Twitter at Gary Harris_WVUA, and the WVUA23, the TV station, is WVUA23.com, and you can log on there and we live stream our news, Tighter Insider, Football Friday, and the different shows that we do. But I appreciate it as always, guys.
Hey, have a great day. Thanks so much. Let's do it again next week.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. Hey, Jimmy, that's going to be a fun one. He's going to send 2 of the interns down there to Baton Rouge. I imagine they're going to be like the deer in the headlights when they get down there covering that game. LSU, Alabama. That's one of the iconic rivalries. Just to say, there will probably be 50 or 60 future NFL players on the field Saturday night. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. Get the color TV cranked up. We'll be right back with more Sidelines. Hour number 2 coming up.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett and Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here, hour number 2. Let's head over to Atlanta. Tommy Kane talking ACC, and here we are. The rankings came out, college football playoff rankings, and that's what's so fun about it is, the arguments, the disagreements, and everything like that. Oh, this team shouldn't be there. This team should be, or our conference is better than yours. It all works out, Tommy, because everybody has to play each other. But right now, Clemson, they're the flag bearer of the ACC. A lot of football still to be played. Give us your report card up to this point, not just for Clemson, but the ACC overall.
I know Clemson's got a lot of controversy being in the top 4. A lot of people are saying that, especially around here locally, that they just haven't proven it. They don't deserve it. They're not as good as they have been in the past. But look, at the end of the day, they're still undefeated. They're still doing what they're supposed to do. So until they get beaten, until somebody comes in and knocks them off, they're undefeated. So, and they play in the ACC. They've had a pretty good strength of schedule, and they're still there. So, like you said, Rob, it'll all shake out. It does people want to get on their soapbox and complain about, this team should be here, this team shouldn't be there, whatever. It'll all work itself out. People are going to win, people are going to lose, and it's going to work, and it's going to figure itself out. As far as the ACC goes, it's an interesting dynamic right now because Clemson is definitely taking control of the coastal, and then of the Atlantic, and then Carolina's down there playing well. Carolina football right now is playing well. They can't stop anybody, but my goodness, they can score in bunches. So that quarterback Drake May, they got the freshman quarterback, is literally lighting it up. I mean, he is just wow. Carolina football is set for as far as quarterback goes for quite a few years now, but it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out with him going. If they make it to the ACC championship game, will it be them versus Clemson? And big game this weekend for NC State, Wake Forest, 2 top 25 teams going at it. NC State's barely escaped last week with the Virginia Tech. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see that game on Thursday night, but that first half of football was ugly. It was 0-0 going into like the last minute, and they kicked the field goal to go up, for 3-0. And they were talking on the broadcast I was going to set a record for the least amount of points scored this year, and 0-0 in the first half. But boy, was the second half a completely other side of the coin. Just lights out. Quarterback, freshman quarterback for State came in, Jay Morris, and just really got in a groove and threw some incredibly pretty balls. And before you know it, it was a 20-point game, both squads, and it came down to the last possession. But just that's ACC football, that's college football. You just never know what to expect. A lot of people tuned out at halftime of that game and just like, I'm done. I even told my wife, I was like, I'm just going to watch a little more. We were down 20-3 or whatever it was. And I kept watching, and all of a sudden we won that game. So, There's been some disappointments this year in the ACC as well. I think Miami would be a disappointment for everybody to kind of come across and say they're not playing as well as they are.
Yeah.
And then some nice surprises. Florida State's playing good football right now, and people didn't really expect that as much as they did. So all in all, I think it's kind of the ACC is kind of shaking out the way we all thought it would.
Is the best coaching job, one of the best coaching jobs in America, what Dave Clawson does at Wake Forest? One of the smallest, along with Tulsa, Division I football schools in the country.
It has to be, guys. I mean, it's a small private school in Winston-Salem, so you're not in a big city. I mean, Winston-Salem's a great city. That whole area is awesome. Winston-Salem, Greensboro, it's a great area to live, but there's not a lot of sexiness to it, let's say, for a college football recruit. They don't pack in 80,000 fans every weekend into the stadium. They've got a great stadium and a great atmosphere, but it's not that big-time college atmosphere of college football, yet they win. And Coach Clawson has done a fantastic job. I mean, their quarterback is as good as any quarterback in the country in Hartman. I mean, the guy is just poised. He makes good decisions. He hardly ever turns the ball over. And they compete and every week and they win. It'll be interesting to see how State does against them this weekend. We're in Raleigh. State's defense is one of the best in the country. So we'll see if they can slow down that offense. But yes, Dave Clawson does a phenomenal job at Wake Forest because it cannot be easy to recruit big time recruits there. I mean, there's nothing, what do you bring them to a game? And it's kind of like they probably get more fans at a Texas high school football game than they do at Winston-Salem. Now Winston-Salem gets a good fan base. It's just not a huge stadium. So don't get me wrong. Their fans are there. It's just not that big, huge atmosphere, right?
Yeah, Grove Stadium holds about 35,000, and it's a neat setting. I mean, hell, Keenan Stadium up at Chapel Hill in the Pines is 52,000, something like that. But there are a lot of people in North Carolina. I mean, a lot. There's a lot of good high school football up there. And another school I'm curious about, Virginia Tech. Frank Beamer retires after the 2015 season. Justin Fuente goes up there. I thought he'd be successful. I watched him at Memphis. I remember him when he committed at Tulsa Union High School on Friday, December 3rd of 1994 on the 6 o'clock news to go to Oklahoma. I was in Tulsa for a wedding that weekend. That didn't happen. Virginia Tech had so much momentum going for them. And now Virginia Tech as a program just is struggling. What are you hearing? I mean, they've typically recruited the Northeast really well in their own state, but something has changed and it ain't working.
It's not. I mean, it's just not, guys. I mean, you start the season losing to Old Dominion.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, come on, let's face it. It was 20-17 lost to Old Dominion. And the only two teams that they've put on the W's they've put up this year are Boston College and Wofford. I mean, that's not Virginia Tech football in any way, shape, or form. It's just not. I mean, you always I tell you what, they have such a great atmosphere up there too in Blacksburg and that stadium when it gets rocking and they play Enter Sandman at the beginning of the game and all the kids are jumping up and down. The whole stadium's vibrating. I mean, I always joked when we were doing road trip, Blacksburg's one of those cities, like if you wanted to rob a bank, just wait until the game stadium. You could literally walk into the bank, take all the money you want and walk out because nobody else is in this. The whole town just shuts down and everybody goes to the game. There's nothing there. Everybody's there from Blacksburg goes to a football game and it's a great atmosphere. But when they had that whole defense going and the lunch pail atmosphere and all that good stuff, and man, they were a team to be reckoned with. And they had some great quarterbacks come through there in the years. And I mean, Michael Vick, obviously, and then, Tyrod Taylor and some guys, and they just had some good athletes and good players. And you knew no matter what, when you played Virginia Tech, you were going to run into your defense was going to be tough. They were going to come to work. They were going to get that lunch pail. And it's just not the same anymore. Coaches have changed. The schemes might have changed a little bit here and there, but something's missing for them. And it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season shakes out. They got Georgia Tech this weekend, obviously a very winnable game for them. And then they go Duke, and I think Liberty is their next game, and then UVA. So they have a pretty easy rest of the schedule to go. But still, that'll give you they could possibly get 6 wins, turn the season around, maybe be bowl eligible, but I think it'd be a long shot.
Yeah. That just doesn't make any sense. I mean, 65, 70,000 at Lane Stadium. Right. They have people, money, passionate fan base. And I don't know, Pitt doing well, how much that hurts Virginia Tech. West Virginia is not doing really well, but it's just, to me, when you take these programs that have the kind of 29-year run that Virginia Tech had under Frank Beamer, and then how do you drop the ball and look around at other programs and look at Miami, look at Florida State. It doesn't take long to fall off the wagon. Jimmy, jump in here with Tommy Kane talking some ACC football. I know you got some questions, and he is the ACC answer man.
Well, what puzzles me is that Justin Fuente resurrected Memphis football from the abyss. I mean, they were just absolutely going nowhere. And then when he took that Virginia Tech job, I thought he was really in a position to go somewhere that had all the intangibles you needed to win. And I just think a big part of it, him being a quarterback, in college, and people don't realize that Justin Fuente at Tulsa Union in 1994 was the USA Today first team high school quarterback. Wow. And when he went to Oklahoma, and then he was there the 1 year Howard Schnellenberger was, and then when he was going to be, he redshirted that year, he's going to be their quarterback, and then John Blake comes in, and you know how that went. But anyway, I thought he would develop quarterbacks there, and it just seemed like he missed on a lot of guys. And the classic example, 2 years ago, Hendon Hooker sitting on the bench at Virginia Tech. That's probably a big reason why Justin Fuente isn't at Virginia Tech anymore. But
that's a great point, Jimmy. Great point.
Yeah, and they clearly had to make a change. And I know Brent Pry was a former grad assistant there, but he was a defensive coach. I really thought they needed an offensive guy. I thought Jamie Chadwell would have been perfect there from Coastal Carolina, because that spread option attack that Virginia Tech's always like to play, that ground game, crunching, smash mouth football. And Chadwell at Coastal Carolina, has also had outstanding dual threat quarterbacks that are also dangerous throwing the football. And I think he is going to be one of the top guys to end up at one of these Power 5 conference programs. If he gets there, I think he's going to explode on the scene there and make wherever he goes a real factor. But again, though, is there anything you would have done differently at Virginia Tech as far as how they went about maybe replacing Fuente, or do you think Pry's he's a solid guy, it's just going to take some time?
Yeah, guys, it's going to take some time anywhere you go, and you're starting from when your program is that far down in the dumps. I mean, you can't just, a new coach isn't going to make your quarterback, a 3-star quarterback, into a 5-star quarterback, or a great. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. It's going to take time. And the Virginia Tech fan base is there. They're passionate. They want the Hokies to be relevant again, and so it's just a matter of whether or not you can be patient enough. In today's day and age, it's hard for college programs to say, hey, look, we got the right coach. Let's just wait 3 or 4 years, and we got to get our players in and get it done. And me speaking personally about like Dave Dorn at NC State, that was what it was like for him. He came in there, and it took a couple of years for them to kind of show where we were, to show, hey, there's some promise here. And now all of a sudden, we're a top 25 team pretty much the last couple of years, and we're doing, and we're back to where we wanted to be. And the recruits are there coming in now. So it's such a domino effect, right? I mean, you got to start winning, you got to start building the program. And then when you start winning, you become popular, and then the recruits come, and then you start getting that thing going. And then it just really comes down to maintaining that. That's why you got to tip your hat to the Clemsons and the people of the world that week after week, year after year, they're in the top group of the players and the teams in the country. Because yes, it's great you can build off of success, but you got to keep everybody happy too. When you got 80 some kids on your team that are all big time recruits, and only 30 of them are playing a weekend, what are you doing about the other 40? It's hard to maintain all that. And so I think the answer is just whatever Virginia Tech gets in there, that hopefully they get the right guy. They might have him now. Just got to be patient. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. It's just not.
Well, I mean, look at what's going on. Another coach that got Memphis going, Mike Norvell. He leaves and goes to Florida State. And the first couple of years, it's been rough. This year, I think they're 5-3. They've got Notre Dame tonight, isn't it?
It's tonight. Yeah.
I mean, and you know, that's a game that should be captivating national TV audiences.
Sure.
You know, it should be. And Duke and North Carolina are playing. But I look around and I see these ACC programs like Virginia Tech, and you know, I've got history there with my brother-in-law and a lot of two nieces and nephew all went to school there. Sister, they live in Roanoke. I've been up there several times to that campus. It is a special place on top of Smith Mountain. Gorgeous campus. It is. I mean, it's like Ivy League up on top of a mountain. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. But I read a good analysis of what's wrong with Virginia Tech, and just the Cliff Note version was they're not recruiting the kind of kids they used to, just these tough blue collar type of kids that bought into the lunch pail, and they missed out on some key recruits, and it just started a fire that just got out of control from that point. And it just, they need to reflect the personality of the school. Everything's about the right fit. I mean, that's what I think it is. And just like people talk about matchups, well, what matters most is how do you match up on game day? All right.
Yeah.
Tommy.
And let me back up real quick for you, Rob, too. That tonight is it's Clemson and Notre Dame this weekend. Clemson and Notre Dame, not Florida State and Notre Dame this weekend. It's Clemson and Notre Dame on Saturday evening. So, but like you said, that's a, you know, and Florida State's got Miami, so they got their rival, and that is on ABC. That's, you know, that's the night game at 7:30, I think, on ABC on Saturday night. So, you know, when the ACC first divided the conference up to Coastal and Atlantic, they on purpose, you know, because Florida State and Miami at the time were like marquee big program. I mean, you know, their history was all there of like they wanted those two teams to always be in the opposite so they could run into each other in the conference championship. And that hasn't happened or even come close to it. So
my apologies on that scheduling thing. I was looking at some information. That was a women's volleyball game.
When you said that about tonight, I was like, I got to make sure my fantasy team's turned in because I didn't think they were playing tonight.
I plead the fifth, Audrey. We go get me some more coffee. Coffee making me nervous. Well, but no, I knew something wasn't right. But anyway, I just looking at the ACC. I think conferences do go through cycles, but the groundwork, and I don't think, Jimmy, any of us, Tommy, are going to suddenly think Mario Cristobal can't win. I just think that the reason he is at Miami is because the coach before him didn't do a good job. So when you inherit a mess, okay, it takes some time to fix it. And you've got to start by getting better players. I think the ACC, I mean, they're kind of everybody's punching bag. And the SEC in basketball a lot of people thought, oh, the SEC is so good. Well, which conference had 3 teams in the Elite 8 last year? And which conference, Miami, played Auburn, the SEC champion, and beat them by 20 points with that 4-guard lineup? I mean, there's a lot of smack talk out there. I was over in Atlanta, got back Monday night. That's where the SEC and the ACC really come together. All right, Tommy, Georgia Tech football coach.
Oh, you guys ask me this every week, man.
I know. Hey, look, we're going to get back to that.
I'm still voting for Deion Sanders. I'm telling you. You saw how that popped up as soon as in Auburn and all that stuff. Their short list, he was right on top of that short list too. I mean, you know, who knows, man? We'll just wait and see. I can't
hold
tell
those thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. I want to come back. I want you to state a case for it because Deion and Lane Kiffin are going to be linked to every hell if Kim Jong-un. I think he's already dead. But if he were, they'd be linked to have the job. I mean, they're linked to everything because they're so good. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959 right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
Now more than ever, it is so important to shop local and to buy American. For 60 years, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company has been on the historic Collierville Square, and we strive to sell made in the USA products when available. With over 7,000 pairs of Western boots and work boots in stock for men and women, come and see our huge selection of clothing, jeans, and accessories from top brands made in the USA. Please support local business and come shop with us at Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company. God bless the USA.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. And man, I tell you one thing, you're looking at a lot of information. I don't have any notes or anything when I'm on here. I'm always freestyle. I'm just looking on my cell phone. WVB, I don't know what I was thinking. Women's volleyball game, though, everybody. Florida State and Notre Dame are playing in volleyball as if there's a men's volleyball team. Anyway, Tommy, you know, look at this Georgia Tech situation. Again, you know, I was over in Atlanta, and you know, Mallory lives 1 mile from Truist Park, home of the Atlanta Braves and the Battery, which is just an unbelievable, the genius of the people that came up with that, because the Braves get the revenue that the team generates and everything from the Battery, I believe. It's just, it's an incredible deal. Now,
it is. Look
at Georgia Tech. There are 6.5 million people there. It is College Football Hall of Fame is there. I'm ready to get Kimberly Bowden, the CEO. She is fantastic at the College Football Hall of Fame there. And Kent Stevens, the historian, got to get them back on here soon. But all right, make your case for Deion Sanders. He's only got maybe 3 years of experience, you know, at Jackson State, and he knows football, but is he at that level? He's not going to have time to do anything other than be a football coach. Does he want to do that? And what are Georgia Tech's expectations now?
You know, I think if I'm Georgia Tech, and I'm just speaking for my own opinion, I think you got to make a splash. You got to come in with something that's going to make people sit up and go, wow, look who they hired. And, you know, I just, you know, during the break there, it was like, you know, let me just check to see who's on the list, the short list of Georgia Tech. And there's people like Todd Monken from, you know, the offensive coordinator at Georgia. There's Deion Sanders, there's Bill O'Brien. And then there's Dan Mullen, of course, we talked about him last week, and Jamie Chadwell at Coastal Carolina. But as far as I'm concerned, like, those are all names that are pretty good and been around. But I mean, Deion Sanders' body of work, I think his first season there, he was like 4-3 in his, you know, in the season, and now he's next year was 11-2, and this year I think I'm not quite sure what his record is, but he's got that program believing. He's got the kids bought in. He's got his sons. One of his sons is the quarterback down there. He's got, you know, talent, but he's made them believe in the system, and he's got them winning. I think, to me, like, from a recruiting standpoint, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on your show. Like, Atlanta is a sexy city for college athletes. I mean, how can it not be? It offers NBA, it offers NFL, it's got, you know, a great music scene, it's got the big city atmosphere, it's got a great, the campus is right there smack in the middle of downtown, you know, pretty much. Georgia State is now a huge school, so there's another college right there. You know, I think the city and the Georgia Tech fan base obviously is just thirsty and hungry for a winning program. And if you bring in somebody like Deion Sanders, who can recruit to a city like Atlanta with his ties here and whatnot, to me, it just seems like a good fit. And why not take the chance? Why not try? I mean, just why not? I mean, that's my thought on it. I don't know how you guys feel, but to me, it's just, if I'm a recruit and I can go, man, I can go play for the coach that was one of the best of the greatest of all time and what he did.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got that swag about him that he can bring to the program. He's not going to be this. I mean, he's going to show up at your press conference in a sweatsuit and gold chain on. You know, he's Deion Primetime Sanders. He's grown up a lot and he's changed a lot, but that resonates with recruits, I think, to some extent. So anyway, If I'm hiring Deion Sanders, but that's my 2 cents, and I'm glad I'm not in that position.
Yeah, but I mean, at Georgia Tech right now, you're flat on your back in a body cast right now. You're in the hospital,
right?
And you got to recover. You got to reach, and you think about it. Why not? What do you got to lose, Jimmy Hodge? What do you think? Would you hire Deion? Because when I ask like Johnny Ballpark Franks on this show, who's a Florida State alum, I mean, Garnett and Gold, Chief Osceola, I think it's his first cousin. I mean, he's a Noel. He does not like Deion Sanders. And I hear that from a lot of Florida State people. So that's interesting. But Jimmy Hodge trying to make sense out of this, and he can get varsity burgers for the team every day across the street.
I would actually go with the chili dogs and the onion rings.
Well, either way, you got to walk it off.
Yeah, well, I think you have to consider who Tech hired as the AD, and it's the number 2 guy at Alabama. So I think he would be much more inclined to go with a process guy in the Saban mold, because it's hard to argue with that type of success. And you have to wonder if that would involve Bill O'Brien, because he was at Tech during some very successful years with O'Leary. So he's familiar with the culture there, but O'Brien's also being mentioned at a lot of other places, Nebraska, possibly Wisconsin, but O'Brien will be the head man somewhere next year. I don't think there's any question about that, but it comes down to also the interaction that the new AD has with the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees are, very successful business people who I think tend to want to go with somebody with a proven track record over a long period of time. Deion's had the, 2 good seasons at Jackson State. I don't know, people that are in those positions might be looking at somebody with a little bit more of a track record, but then on the other end, you're going to have a faction of the Tech power brokers that think, hey, we're really kind of where maybe Memphis was 10 years ago. We're in a period where this thing could really go downhill, if we don't get the right guy. So it's, golly, I'm like Tommy. I mean, I wouldn't like to be making this decision, because you've got a lot of very enthusiastic backers, for multiple candidates, and you just have to sort that thing out. But I'm thinking with bringing in a guy like Alabama, you're probably going to be going with somebody with proven head coaching experience at the Power 5 level, but hey, that's what they're paying these guys for, and right. I think they have to do something, though, even if it's a current coach at another school. They have to do it behind the scenes with their agent, because that early signing period is just over 5-6 weeks away. So you've got to be prepared for that, although you're going to miss on almost everybody, but still you got to introduce yourself to the iconic head football high school coaches in Georgia, Alabama, in those southern states, so that they know you're out and about and you're serious about getting players, and then you're serious about getting your NIL game and your collective game among your alumni up to par to be able to compete for the most elite players at both the high school and the portal level.
Right. Yeah. And let me ask you this real quick too. I mean, does somebody like Bill O'Brien, even if he gets offered a job, does he necessarily take it? Right. I mean, maybe he waits for something that's more, lucrative, more sexy, as far as that's already got a program that's doing pretty well and not so down in the dumps at Georgia Tech. I don't know. I mean, because he is like you said, he will be coaching somewhere next year, so he could maybe pick where he wants to go. So,
I tell you what, if I'm an Auburn guy, hire Brian Harsin, because then Georgia Tech won't recruit anybody. I mean, it happened to be Atlanta will just be wide open. I mean, they might even say, come get them, Bill O'Brien, he saved Penn State, Tommy.
He did. He did.
saved
He really did. And, went in there too with a whole lot of limitations, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they just, under so many NCAA just, it was terrible. It was about as bad a situation as you can get in, and he did okay there. Who knows, guys? Like I said, like Jimmy and I said, I'm just glad we can talk about it on the radio and don't have to be in the hot seat and make those decisions. But, we all want to see Georgia Tech do well. I mean, we really do. Let's face it, they've always been kind of like the second or third fiddle down here because of the Bulldogs from Georgia right up the street in Athens. I mean, they just it's really, I listen to sports talk radio down here all the time when I'm driving around. And I mean, my goodness, they have the Georgia Bulldog Hour. They have the Georgia this, Georgia whatever. Georgia Tech might not get mentioned, but maybe for 2% of the day throughout the day. And, it's all about Georgia and Georgia Bulldogs and Georgia Bulldogs. And I feel sorry for Georgia Tech because they're right here in the city and they just don't get any love. They just don't. So,
well, winning will cure that. I'll tell you one thing, Tommy, before you let people know how they can follow you, I will be watching tonight with my wife, Audrey, on the ACC network, the women's volleyball game between Notre Dame and Florida State.
You let us know how that, let us know. I want to break down analysis of how the game went tomorrow, Rob.
Absolutely. I was looking at I'm glad I'm not an air traffic controller. Land on this runway. Oh, so wrong one. But Tommy, tell people how they can follow you. Always love having you on. Appreciate you taking time to join us and look forward to visiting with you next week.
Yeah, always, guys. I love talking with you guys. You guys do a great job. You can follow me on Instagram at Tommy Kane -talent or _talent. And then I got my own production company, Pack 30 Productions, do video work and production work as well as emceeing and hosting and acting work. So you can follow me on there. And I just love being on with you guys. So I appreciate your time.
Ditto as well. Have a great one. Thanks.
All right, guys.
All right. Hey, let's head down to Oxford, Mississippi. The man from Hattiesburg, Yancy Porter. Sound like the McLaughlin group. Yancy Porter, go! we had to do the McLaughlin hour yesterday at the end of the show. I went back and I looked at some of those Saturday Night Live skits with Chris Farley and the McLaughlin. That was some great TV. I got to tell you, the McLaughlin group. But Yancy, man, Rebels. Golly, they're off this week. What a great week to be off. And still, look at all the great games they got left to play. But let's get your report card as we do every week on Ole Miss football right now. We'll be getting into basketball soon, but focusing on the football up to 8-1.
Yeah, things are going a lot better for Ole Miss right now than the stock market. I tell you what, I just had a minor heart attack after Powell's comments yesterday. So I've been trying to deal with that, some sales presentations. But in all seriousness, things they got things back on track. After those first 2 touchdowns against A&M and the first 2 drives, you were like, oh my gosh, here we go again. But, to Partridge and Lane's credit, they were able to make some adjustments. They forced them to 7 3-and-out punts in a row. The offense kind of got sideways, as you saw there, for about a quarter and a half. Then they made some really good halftime adjustments. And as I said, from the spring and this summer, this Chuckins he is an absolute animal.
Yeah, and 31-28. It was a little bit of drama there at the end. I was in Auburn. I went to 2 teams gathered on the field, and Arkansas was the one. But I was watching that game, and my Ole Miss friends, just the reactions, you're into it on every play. But I just felt like Ole Miss would go out there and get the win. And 31-20, hey, it's a road win in the SEC. And after the way LSU beat Ole Miss is up 17-3. LSU outscores them 42-3 from that point. You heard the narrative, Yancy. Ole Miss could lose every game. Well, they could win them too. The schedule was back end loaded and all. I think Lane Kiffin and this staff listened to all that and used it as a positive. Like when people say, that's impossible. I treat the word impossible as motivation. And that's what he does. He's a lot better motivator than people think. People love his sound bites and social media and all, but that guy is crazy smart.
Yeah, there's no question about it. He's kind of like a scientist, right? Kind of like Mike Leach.
He looks like. You know who he looks like? Thomas Dolby. Remember? Science.
There's look. Kiffin is he is a very, very intelligent person, right? And we saw that with the adjustments. There's a lot of criticism after that LSU game, not making those adjustments, and LSU did, and give Brian Kelly a lot of credit in what they did offensively and defensively to Ole Miss. But I think Kiffin really rebounded well, made some tremendous halftime adjustments, got that running game going right. I believe they only ran for maybe 130 yards against LSU. That changed drastically as we saw as they put up 390 yards rushing against Texas A&M, which I believe was only 3 yards short of a school record of yards rushed against A&M in their school history. So things are back on track. They played 9 straight weeks without a bye. So many guys are beat up. This bye right now could not have come at a better time. And look, it couldn't come at a better time too, because Alabama's going to be playing a very emotional game against LSU. The Rebels will be fully rested, waiting on Alabama here in a week in 3 days. So things cannot have come at a better time for Ole Miss with this bye. Added with Alabama coming off an emotional game, I think Ole Miss would be catching the tide at a perfect time.
Well, and I will say this. I'm not in the food services industry, but I know people that are. I hope to God that Chevron station has ordered at least 1 million chicken on a stick. Okay. Because, man, I have been in there at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning and eating 3 or 4 chicken on a stick. Yeah, it's going to be, Oxford is going to be just absolute bedlam down there. That's Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. But, man, the football gods have put Alabama in a precarious situation. I think they get the win Saturday in Baton Rouge by a couple of touchdowns. But, man, going to Oxford after that, we don't know what time that game's going to be played yet. But, man, 2:30. Okay. That is the 2:30. Okay. What an atmosphere. I mean, but Ole Miss, you're right. They need an off week.
Yeah, look, you give Lane Kiffin 2 weeks about to prepare for Saban. There's probably not another coach in this world that Lane respects more than Nick Saban. But having said that, as anybody, someone that has kind of been your tutor, there's nobody more than he would like to beat than Nick Saban. So he is going to, as they asked him after the A&M game, when do you start preparing for Alabama, you and your players? And he says, as soon as I get out of this media center right here. So they have been preparing, immediately for that Alabama. Look, they're going to have to put up 45-plus points. We know that. We know scrambling quarterbacks, as we saw with LSU, have given Ole Miss's defense problems. So that is going to be something to look out for. It'll be interesting to see what kind of multiple sets they come out defensively. But Judkins is going to have to run wild. And more importantly, we saw what Zach Evans does for this offense when he missed.
Yancy, hold those thoughts. Hold those thoughts, because I want to talk about that dynamic running back duo, because it's elite after this.
Hey, y'all. It's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection. And they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Yancy, I got to ask you this because you will know this. Alabama coming into town November 12th. Who's the Friday night band? The big white animals coming to town, the crime. Hey, one of my buddies was a Sigma Nu at Ole Miss, Big Daddy. One night he was the like social chairman, Sigma Nu at Ole Miss one time. He was pretty lit up on the Maker's Mark, and he passed out in the van. Remember that band, The Crime? And he woke up. He woke up Sunday morning somewhere between Tuscaloosa and Montgomery, and goes, "Man, where am I?" They were like, "Dude, we thought you were one of our guys." It gets kind of wild in Oxford. I'll just say that. But
there's
coming?
I don't know. They're expecting close to a crowd of 150,000 people coming in town for that event. It's going to be absolutely nuts. Just a parking pass on campus, the minimum is going for $1,000 right now. Tickets are crazy. My neighbor got $8,500 for 2 nights for his house to rent out for the weekend. It's a lot of money is going to be made over these next 7 days here in Oxford.
Yeah, and what were people telling us 2 years ago during the pandemic? Well, college football fans are going to find other things to do with their time. You know, they'll take up gardening and agrami, and they'll take up badminton. You know, they're not going to come back to college football. Hey, do all of you collectively put your lips over your head all together and swallow. We don't need you. No time for negativity. All right, Yancy. It's big. It's big. It's huge. The atmosphere down there. But that dynamic duo, Zach Evans, Quinshon Judkins, and you're hearing more and more when I was down in Auburn over the weekend talk about, well, you know, Auburn had made an offer, but they had someone else that said, if this guy doesn't come, we'll come back after you. Well, if that's what really was said by that coaching staff, that's why Brian Harsin and the Potato Boys are going back to Idaho. But, you know, Georgia Tech, he is available if you need a head football coach, and go get him.
Well, I'll tell you what, just the rumor of Auburn coming after Lane Kiffin just galvanized the fan base. The NIL fund, the Broke Collective, picked up nearly now 2,000 members in the last 48 hours since that report came out. So I think Ole Miss would like to thank Auburn, whoever put that report out, because it is really – just unify this fan base, and it's amazing what the NIL has done in these past 48 hours here at the University of Mississippi.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, because what happens when your name is mentioned, like in the case of Lane Kiffin, he gets a raise either way. He gets a raise to stay at Ole Miss, or Auburn would obviously have to pay him more. But I'm telling you, that 4-year contract deal in Mississippi, I like that. Versus you give an 8 or 10-year deal, you give away all your leverage, and then who's going to be stuck with paying that out? Look at Texas A&M. Jimmy, jump in here with Yancy Porter down in Oxford, Mississippi, and like I say, it's a week off, but I imagine people are going to be coming in early next week for the Alabama Ole Miss game in Oxford.
Well, first of all, if another school wanted Kiffin, you'd obviously have to pay him more. But what's he making? Around $7 million, Yancy?
I think he's making $7.7 million. I think what you're going to see at the end of the year, that's going to be bumped up to $10 to $12 million. It ends up being a 5-year contract with the rollover in Mississippi. So you're looking at around $50-60 million. That is total contract to be after the end of the season.
Yeah, I think you're looking at a repeat of 2014 in that I think game day could very well be in Oxford next week. I was at the 2014 game in Oxford, and my cousin is a CEO of a health facility there in Oxford, and he's got a townhouse a mile from the square, and as we were meeting after the game, they were parading one of the goalposts right by us. You know, it was now I don't know if they didn't have a river like Tennessee to be able to deposit it, but I'm kind of curious if they did what Tennessee did though with one of the goalposts, and that is cut it into about 100 pieces and then sold them. And then actually on the news, Yancy, 3 or 4 days after the game in Knoxville, it was, there was a news story on it locally talking about, well, if you were interested in a piece, you could contact the Sigma Chi House because they had cut it into a lot of pieces, and they were saving a 3-foot chunk and a 4-foot chunk for permanent display, in their lobby area there. So I was just wondering what they ever did to the goalpost there, because those moments don't happen every day. And if you're a fan, you always want to have a permanent reminder of that day.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I've seen bits and pieces of that goalpost on people's walls all over, even college students. I don't think they even had a chance to sell it. I think everybody took it upon themselves to saw those things off and make their own little pieces. And like I've said, I've seen at least a dozen of those on people's walls. I don't have one, but I've seen them all over Oxford from that event. But it's going to, a lot of it's going to be really dependent on if Alabama beats LSU, right? That's going to be a big thing. And look, things are about to get crazy. You got Tennessee, Georgia going against each other. You got Ole Miss, Alabama going against each other. Next weekend, and then you got LSU, Alabama this weekend, and you got Clemson, Notre Dame. Put that on your docket now. I've said from day one, Clemson's the most overrated team in the country. Don't be surprised if Notre Dame ends up winning that game, which in effect will throw one more out of that top 4 in the playoff picture, because I think that will eliminate Clemson. So over these next 9 days, the playoff picture is really going to be revitalized. There's going to be a lot of teams moving out, and a lot of teams moving in that picture.
Well, it all works itself out because everybody plays each other. Clemson going to Notre Dame. Remember 2 years ago, that's when DJ Ugly, whatever his name is, went up there and had 457 yards passing, the most ever given up by Notre Dame in South Bend. And everybody thought, oh, he's going to be the heir apparent superstar to Trevor Lawrence. And every week, there's that debate, should Klubnik be in there, whatever. But the wheels may fall off this weekend is what you're saying. That'll be an interesting game to watch. Yancy, you're looking at the way Ole Miss has developed. The defense giving up 42 points after being up 17-3 at LSU. What happened there, and what did you see in the A&M game that made you feel like, okay, they're going to be okay, and what keeps you up at night, keeps you, going to chicken on a stick at 3 a.m, getting a road soda and going, how are we going to overcome this? Because you're a deep thinker along the lines of, Descartes, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and Abner.
Well, I think it's simple. I think Ole Miss has been playing that 3 safety high soft zone all season. They've been able to get away with that with teams that are maybe not as capable as the elite teams. So what you're betting on when you play that type of defense, you're betting on the opposing team offense making more mistakes than your offense, right? Yeah. Make them go 8, 10, 12 play drives. And LSU was just too good for that. And they didn't get out of it. And they just played pitch and catch all day long. They were rushing 3, not sending exotic blitzes. And then A&M, they went kind of right back to that 3-high defense in those first 2 drives. And I think they said, okay, enough's enough. They started playing some press coverage on the outside with the corners. They started sending some exotic blitzes, some guys around the ends, and things changed drastically. Like I said, they forced 7 3-and-outs in a row after A&M just shredded that defense the first 2 drives, and then 9 out of 10 3-and-outs for A&M during that game at one point. So I think they really learned what all the fans have been clamoring for: throw that defense in the garbage. It's not the 3-2-6. That can still work and still work very effectively. But when you're playing that 3-high soft zone and just rushing 3, the good elite teams are just going to eat you up. And that's exactly what LSU did. Once they were able to get out of that, they really started playing really nice defense there, except for towards the end where they were just trying to hold on, right? They were up 2 touchdowns. They started getting a little bit soft again. The offense kind of stalled out because they were trying to burn clock off, went in their normal type of offense, and darn near let A&M come back and win that game. So They got to stay aggressive. They got to play press man. Look, what gives me nightmares, or I guess what gives Lane nightmares, is that quarterback for Alabama. He's simply the best in the country. There's not a close second to him. And, guys that can use their legs along with their arm are really dangerous for any defense. But I'm sure that's what's going to give Lane a lot of sleepless nights over these next 9 days.
Well, I mean, that's a good way to look at Bryce Young. He's smart enough too, though, not even though he's fast, he's quick. He's not crazy to where he's going to run out there and expose himself. That's what hurt KJ Jefferson with Arkansas. He's big and he thinks he can run over people, and he can, but eventually you're going to run into the wrong guys, which you do every week in the SEC. So got to be very careful with that. Yancy, with Ole Miss, the defensive line, that's been the difference. You talked about the depth that they've got, and it all starts up front. Let's switch gears to the offensive side. Lane Kiffin, what makes him such a successful coach is he can take whatever he's got and adapt and make it work and mold it to what he can do. But he doesn't make excuses. We're too young. We're inexperienced at wide receiver, whatever. Jonathan Mingo's pretty good. But they've had some elite wide receivers the last 6 or 7 years at Ole Miss. Who do you look for in this group to possibly break out in this last stretch of the season? Because at 8-1, I mean, they're on the verge of doing something I don't think Ole Miss has done since 59 and 60 when they were back-to-back national champions, and that's when 10 or more games. This is no wonder 2,000 people just, signed up for the Ole Miss NIL collective. They don't want to lose this guy. I wouldn't either.
No, he's special. I mean, there's no doubt. I know Ole Miss is going to do everything in their power to keep him around for a very long time. And I think Lane is very happy at Ole Miss. I think the missing piece is really getting that NIL group up to where 3 of the top 5 programs have their NIL groups right now. And as we've seen and we just spoke about, they've really made a lot of progress. I think that's really going to start getting done over these next couple months, getting the numbers where it needs to be. Lane's perfectly happy at Ole Miss. I think really right now for the key to the matchup against Alabama, getting back to the game, is really it's going to be Alabama's defense against Ole Miss's offense, right? Alabama's going to get theirs on offense. Let's just be real. Ole Miss just needs to slow them down somewhat, get 3 or 4 punts. But Alabama's going to get their 35-plus points. It's going to be what can Alabama's defense do against Ole Miss's offense. The interesting thing about Lane, and if you watch, their blocking schemes change game to game. It is a really hard puzzle to put together when you're trying to face a Lane Kiffin offense because they don't have tendencies, right? Everything changes week to week, even down to the way that the offensive linemen block. Lane is going to throw everything out the book when he faces Nick Saban, and he is going to come up with everything new. He is not going to do any of his tendencies in the past. I can promise you this: as much as all the Ole Miss fans want to beat Alabama this next Saturday, you can combine all that and some, and they don't want to beat them as much as Lane Kiffin wants to beat Nick Saban.
Well, you want to beat your mentor, and that's very important. But I again, don't underestimate how much Lane Kiffin knows about defense. And Jimmy, we just got a couple of minutes left. I know you got another question for Yancy. We'll wrap it up.
Yeah, Yancy, I thought one big development for Alabama in this last game against Mississippi State was they put Eli Ricks into the lineup at cornerback, and he's an NFL player, but he had not been playing at all, because he had not reportedly been picking up the Saban scheme and wasn't, very impressive in practice. Well, let me tell you something. I don't care how a guy plays in practice if you get it in the game. And from the first play on against State, he knocked down a slant pattern And I mean, it led to Alabama having 14 pass breakups in the game, and he basically took away that side of the field. So I think, of course, Lane's very aware of that, but that's a huge development for Alabama, because had he been in there against Tennessee, I don't think you would have seen 52 points on the board. And I think that's going to be a big difference for Alabama, not only this weekend and next weekend, but for the rest of the season if they keep winning.
No doubt about it. The pass defense for Alabama against Tennessee to the next week against Mississippi State was just drastically different. That's what makes Saban so special, right? But everything's going to be about Alabama's ability to stop Ole Miss's run game. Everybody thinks they can be able to do it, but really nobody has. LSU did without Zach Evans. Junkins can't do it all by himself. Zach getting healthy. Is Alabama going to have to commit a 7th or even a possibly 8th guy in that box to stop the run game? If they can, then it's darn near impossible to stop Ole Miss's offense, because you're leaving one-on-one matchups without safeties being able to bracket those guys. So that's going to be the key. Can Alabama stop Ole Miss's run game or slow it down?
Yeah. Another thing, too, is, and we're about out of time, but you can look at the rushing 3, and they call that the dollar package. When you're rushing 3 and you got 8 guys dropping back in coverage. Again, I'm not a coach, and nothing's more annoying than all these people that try and think they're a coach and tell you all this stuff. It's common sense. If you've got 8 guys dropping back in coverage and only 3 rushing, you're vulnerable, and you got to change during the game. But I back when Auburn lost to Tennessee in 2018, October 13th, I was telling the people with me that day, I said, Auburn ought to just bite the bullet, get Mr. Rogers on the road, pay him off, go away, and bring in Lane Kiffin from Florida Atlantic. And all these Tennessee fans and all these different people criticize him. I go, look, he was 28 years old or whatever. He got fired by Al Davis, and whose son, by the way, might have the worst haircut in Western civilization. You can still see the soup stains on the side of his head. Looks like clam chowder or vegetable. But, I mean, good God, he's grown up a lot, and he's a great coach. And Yancy, let me say this. Go out and help somebody with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. You can always follow Yancy Porter every Monday night, 6 p.m. Central, Sports 56 WHBQ, Super Talk Mississippi. And Yancy, thanks always for your time.
Thank you. Y'all have a blessed day.
All right, you do too. Love having you on. We're out of here. Be back tomorrow. Be careful. Have a great one. God bless America.